Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 14 wide receiver must-starts and must-sits of the week. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Today's video is brought to you guys by DraftKings Sportsbook. They have a great offer that we're going to be talking about a little bit later in today's video. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 14 must start and must sit wide receivers. We begin with my first must-start wide receiver of the week, Garrett Wilson of the New York Jumbo Jets, going up against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo this week. In week number 13, up against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota, Garrett Wilson was the wide receiver number 9 in half PPR, having 8 receptions on 15 targets for 162 yards in a game in which Garrett Wilson's quarterback, Magic Mike White, had 57 passing attempts. Now, Wilson has had back-to-back games with over 20 half PPR points. Now, Buffalo does rank 7th up against the pass in DVOA, but I still believe that Garrett Wilson will be able to get it done because I think the volume is going to be extremely high yet again for Garrett Wilson in this matchup up against the Buffalo Bills. Again, Mike White had 57 passing attempts up against the Minnesota Vikings. The Jets are going to have to throw the ball deep into this game up against the Buffalo Bills, whether this game ends up being extremely close or a game in which Josh Allen is laying the pipe to the Jets and then they have to throw the ball a lot late in the game to try to catch up. I really do believe in Garrett Wilson. He is clearly the number one weapon on this Jets team, and I think it wouldn't surprise me at all if he got around 12 targets in this game, especially if Mike White throws the ball 45 plus times. Obviously, if you're Mike White, your arm's gonna hurt for the next week if you have to throw the ball 50 plus times. So I hope for his sake they don't have to do it, but it wouldn't surprise me if Mike White ended up with over 50 plus passing attempts for 2 straight games. Next up, we move to number 2, DJ Moore of the Carolina Panthers, going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. The Panthers were on bye in week number 13, so we gotta hop in the time machine and look back to week number 12 for his stats. In week number 12, up against a stout Denver Broncos defense, DJ Moore was the wide receiver number 9 in half PPR, having 4 receptions on 6 targets for 103 yards and a touchdown. We have seen DJ Moore play with 3 quarterbacks this year, which is pretty crazy. Normally, most receivers only play with 1 or 2 quarterbacks. This guy, he's special. You know, the Panthers are a little special. They get 3 quarterbacks. So they played with Baker, PJ Walker, and my guy, Sam Darnold. And it would appear with Sam Darnold under center, DJ Moore has the most upside. The Seattle Seahawks have a relatively underrated defense as they rank 18th in pass DVOA. But if I'm being honest with you guys, the Panthers don't really have too many targets to throw the ball to. Sure, they have Terrace Marshall, they have Laviska Shenault, they have Tommy Make That Ass Tremble, but at the end of the day, none of those wide receivers or tight ends compare with the skill set that DJ Moore possesses, and it wouldn't shock me if Sam Darnold continued to Salt Bae style pepper the boy DJ Moore with a bunch of targets in this spot up against Seattle. Next up, we move to my final wide receiver that is a must start before we pivot into the must sits, and that is Michael Gallup of the Dallas Cowboys, going up against the Houston Texans at home in Jerry's World. In week number 13, up against the Colts in prime time, Michael Gallup was the wide receiver number 15 in half PPR, having 4 receptions on 7 targets for 23 yards and not 1, but 2 touchdowns in that game, and he has had back-to-back Michael Jordan 96-97 games with over 7 targets. The Texans, surprisingly, not the worst against the pass, ranked 19th in pass DVOA. My only worry about Michael Gallup in this game is the fact that I think the Dallas Cowboys might shellac the shit out of the Houston Texans, meaning I think that this Dallas Cowboys offense might just be up so big going into half that, just like we saw with the Miami Dolphins, that maybe Dak and CeeDee and Gallup and Schultz, all the main guys, end up getting benched after the first half of this game, and then Michael Gallup may not be able to live up to his expectations. But again, this is a wet dream matchup for Michael Gallup. So even with the worries about the team potentially just all getting benched after the first half, I'm still going to say that Michael Gallup is a must start because, again, this matchup is just so juicy. Before we pivot on into the must sit wide receivers of the week, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, if you're a brand new user to DraftKings Sportsbook and click on the link in the video description or in the pinned comment, they have a great offer for you. If you bet $5 on any pre-game money line from now all the way until December 30th, you will win $150 in free bets if your team wins. Now, again, if your team wins. So I think you guys should be betting on college basketball because they have the biggest favorites on the money line. So I'm going to throw it onto the screen right now. You're going to navigate to the top left where it says college basketball after you sign up. And then you're going to bet $5 on Utah minus 1,400 up against Jacksonville State tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if they win, you will receive $150 in free bets that are available for once you receive them for the next 7 days. So make sure you use them once you receive them. And then if you live in Maryland, since sports betting just got legalized there, you can actually get $200 in free bets instead of $150. So please make sure that you take advantage of this offer right now because, again, it does disappear at the end of December on December 30th. So back on into things here. We now pivot to the must-sit wide receivers, beginning with Deontay Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I know, Nick, for weeks you've been telling me to sit Deontay Johnson. Well, when I look at the expert consensus rankings, I look across a bunch of different websites. Some websites have Deontay Johnson ranked inside the top 30, the top 32, or the top 34. So I will continue to bang the drum negatively towards Deontay Johnson. Now, it has nothing to do really with the fact that Kenny Pickett is playing just about average. It really just has to do with the fact that Deontay Johnson isn't playing all that well. Week 13 up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, a wet dream matchup, an incredibly simple matchup for the wide receiver. You would think, hey, if Deontay Johnson was ever going to have a smash game, it would be up against the garbage Atlanta Falcons defense. In that game, he was the wide receiver 37.5 PPR, tied with Gabe Davis, Jerry Jeudy, and Chris Olave, having 5 receptions on 11 targets for 60 yards, and the Ravens defense ranks 11th in pass DVOA. Again, I was someone who was a big fan of Deontay Johnson all offseason. I love the upside he has. I knew he was going to see a lot of targets, and he continues to be heavily targeted, but he's dropping balls. He's not making the plays that he made last year with Big Ben Roethlisberger under center. So unless something magically changes and he has fucking like stickum stuck to his hands or something, he actually starts catching the football. Once that happens, then hoorah, I was right about Deontay Johnson. Maybe he's some league-winning wide receiver. But right now, I don't want anything to do. I'm not touching Deontay Johnson with a 10-foot pole. Next up, we move to Brandon Ayuk of the 49ers going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home in San Francisco. Week 13 up against the Miami Dolphins at home in San Fran. Wide receiver 48 on the week in half PPR, having 5 receptions on 9 targets for 46 yards. While the Bucs defense isn't necessarily what we thought they were going to be entering into the season, they still rank 8th in pass DVOA, and things might not be so purty this week because Brock Purdy is going to be under center yet again, and the Miami Dolphins defense is soft as baby shit, whereas I think that the Buccaneers defense is going to look to lock down Brock Purdy. And while I think Debo or Ayuk could still definitely have a good game, my confidence in them is at an all-time low, like that John Bellion song. So I think this week I'm going to label Brandon Ayuk as a must sit. Final must sit is wide receiver Nico Collins of the Houston Texans going up against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Now, I am personally a huge fan of Nico Collins as well as the skill set that he possesses. The issue I have here with Nico Collins has nothing to do with him and has everything to do with the fact that the Dallas Cowboys have the numero uno, very nice, number 1 defense against the pass. Week 13 up against Cleveland. Wide receiver 26.5 PPR, tied with T. Higgins and Corey Davis, scoring a garbage time touchdown, 3 receptions on 10 targets for 35 yards. And again, he had 1 touchdown in that game. Now, maybe going from Kyle Allen to Davis Money Mills. Davis Money Mills is going to be able to resurrect this offense. But I doubt it. And again, I love Nico Collins. It just feels like this is the complete opposite of the matchup that you want to jump on for Nico Collins. And again, the targets aren't the most accurate from Davis Mills. So I'm really worried about Nico Collins because I think a lot of people are going to see what he did last week, start banging the drum for him, and then he's going to end up shitting the bed. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Make sure that you guys check out the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, link down below in the video description. Bet $5 on any pregame money line and you receive $150 in free bets if your team wins. Again, my best bet for tonight in college basketball, Utah minus 1,400 versus Jacksonville State at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Real quick, also, if you guys have never played DFS and never used the Stochastic product, we have a great offer for you. You get 3 free days of our Stochastic Plus Platinum package just by clicking on the link in the video description as long as you're a new user to Stochastic.com. That is how I won $5,000 last week on DraftKings using all of our tools, lineup generator, as well as our NFL DFS projections, ownership percentage, 1v1 tools, top stack tools, all risk-free. The link in the video description. Again, you get 3 days for free, and it's a good way to, you wouldn't buy a car without test driving it. You can test drive these tools, and the best part about it is DFS for the NFL doesn't end when the regular season ends, like your fantasy football league. It ends at the Super Bowl. So make sure you guys do check that out. I love DFS personally. I talk about it a lot. If you guys watch the live streams on Sunday, I talk about it a ton while we're on there. I talk about kind of my thought process as I'm making teams. I answer some DFS questions as well. So please make sure that you guys check that out. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good.